Today's layout fitting is going to be a transitional elbow. This transitional elbow is going to be using some of the same basic principles as we used in simple layout. The only difference, the heel and throat go from 3 to 5. This is what the sketch will look like when you have completed. So I would say let's start with the bottom cheek by drafting a 7 3/4 by 7 3/4 square. I am now marking 4 inches at my opening. That will leave me with a 2.5 inch working radius for my throat. This will become A, B, and C. A to B is 2.5, and B to C is 4 inches. So set your dividers from A to B. And now I am adding 3/16 of an inch to that. This would be for your Pittsburgh lock male portion. Now set your dividers from A to C and swing an arc up 90 degrees. And you might as well do the same thing. Readjust, add another 3/16 to complete the male portion of the Pittsburgh lock. You have A, B, and C identified. Now identify D and E. Again, this is going to be a 4 by 3 inch depth on that end, and the cheek will be 4 by 5 inch depth. This transitional fitting, we are going to make it flat on bottom. Meaning one cheek is going to be flat and the other one will drop 2 inches from 3 to 5. I am now bisecting B and D. On the throat and on the heel to establish points F, G. Now that you have established your working drawing, your working view, which is your bottom cheek, I am now making a true length triangle by drawing a 90-degree corner on my sheet. This fitting goes from 3 to 5, a difference of 2 inches. So on the bottom, mark a 1 inch mark and a 2 inch mark. The 1 inch will represent a half drop and the 2 inch will represent a full drop. This is not necessary to draw these lines in, but I am doing this to facilitate or probably make it easier to understand that every line needs to be triangulated. These are called element lines or measurement lines. Now that you've got all your element lines, let's set your compass from C to G and strike an arc vertically, and make sure you identify it CG. And you will need to do this on all or for all of these measurement or element lines. CG, BG, DG, and EG are pretty much all the same. Therefore, that arc can be identified as CG, BG, DG, and EG. Now I'm setting my compass to BF. And if this was bisected right, DF should measure the same. So again, on your true length triangle, come up vertically from M and establish BF and DF. One last one is your compass set from B to D. Use M as center and strike an arc vertically, establish BD. Again, these lines are not necessary to draw in. It's simply demonstrating the true length line, which is the actual true length of every one of those lines.
Good, thanks.
Okay, now we are ready to start the top cheek, which is your developed top cheek. I'm going to start with A, and I'm going to do this upside down, or trying to keep my markings on the inside of the fitting. So I went with A on that straight line, or excuse me, C. And from C to B, we knew it was 4 inches. So now that I've got C to B, and then from B to A is 2.5 inches. This is point A. Now let's take the true length line from C to G. And you might be noticing that G is halfway through the fitting. Therefore, you must take it from O, your half drop, to CG. That is your true length. So somewhere on this arc is CG. Let's do the same thing with BG. BG, also from O, because it's a half drop. I have just located my point G. Now from G, I'm going to go and find D. Half drop, O to C to GD. From G, strike an arc, and D is somewhere on that line. Well, now I'm going to go from B to D, but B to D, you must go from point N on your true length triangle because it is a full drop of 2 inches. D. Now let's try and find E. So right now I'm setting my compass up from G to E on my true length triangle, which is half drop, G to E. And now I will set my dividers from D to F. This is a true length. It is 4 inches. That's the width of the cheek. So set your compass up to 4 inches. Set the point on D. And strike your arc to establish point E. Now we need to finish the throat to find F. So I'm setting my compass up from B to F on the true length triangle, which is over a half drop at O. O to BF. And we're going to do the same thing with D to F. It's the same distance over a half drop from D to F. Now we are going to try and find the curves or the radiuses for our throat and then the heel. So right now I would like for you to bisect B to F. And from F to D. Once you have bisected it, find the intersection where they both meet. And where they both meet would be TR, your throat radius. Set your compass from throat radius to D, and strike an arc through F and B. And while you're there, add 3/16 for the Pittsburgh lock. Now you'll see I'm doing the same thing with the heel. Bisect G to E and G, C. Extend both bisectors till you find your intersection for the heel radius. Now I'm using my bow compass because my compass was not long enough to extend to the proper length. So I'm using the bow compass and I just struck an arc through E, G, and C, and I will add my 3/16 and do the same thing from the heel radius. Now I'm going to add my connectors for my SN drive. This is my developed top cheek. This top cheek is going down or up. It's changing 2 inches. When fabricating this, these 2 dotted lines will need to be kinked. One will be kinked up and the other one will be kinked down. Also, your 1-inch working lines will also need to be kinked down and up. So now we're going to start laying out the heel pattern. The heel pattern stretch out is always based on the bottom or working view cheek, which is a flat cheek. In this case, I have a 6.5 inch heel radius. Therefore, 6.5 times 1.57 will give me 10 3/16. I will need to add 2 inches to this or 1 inch on each end for my SN drives. I am now adding my 1/2 and 1/2 for SN drives. I'm now adding a 1 inch for the Pittsburgh pocket. And this represents the bottom, flat. So if you look at your bottom cheek, I have C to E. This is what I just laid out, 10 3/16 long, plus 1 and 1. Now we know it's going from 3 inches on one end to 5 inches on the other. let's put E and C. My last E and C matches E and C on the developed top cheek. Now I'm adding a 1 inch for my Pittsburgh lock. .90 off the working line. And again, 90 degrees off your finish line. So this completes the heel pattern. So now let's get started on the throat pattern. That's my 1 inch Pittsburgh lock. I'm adding a 1/2 and a 1/2 for my S and drives. And this is D. From D to B, we know we've used a 2.5 inch radius. So 2.5 times 1.57 will give you 3 15/16. So with your ruler, measure 3 15/16 from D. Add your 1/2 and 1/2. We know right here we've got 3 inch opening, and at D we'll have a 5 inch opening. B to B is 3 inches. Basically symmetrical to your heel pattern, but much shorter because it's the throat. Connect these 2 dots, add another inch for your Pittsburgh lock. Notch 90 degrees off of DB. Again, 90 degrees off of DB, or the finish line DB. I will now complete the notching and darken my object lines. For those of you who are interested in fabricating one of these metal transitional elbows, check my video on fabricating a transitional elbow.